right, psychology nerds, and welcome back to another episode of Psychology and Stuff, the podcast from Good Cause Productions at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. I'm your host, Allison Jane Martin-Gano, and today I'm joined by recent UW Green Bay alum Drew Grove, who graduated in December 2025 with a BA in psychology. Drew was a non-traditional student. He's a father of 3 and someone who returned to higher education after spending nearly 2 decades working in manufacturing. A health crisis ultimately prompted him to reevaluate his career, and he made the decision to come back to school and completely reinvent his professional path. Drew has generously agreed to share his journey, what it was like returning to college as an adult learner, how he balanced school with family, and what surprised him most about UWGB, and where he's hoping to go next. All right, Drew, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
You're very, very welcome. So I wonder if we could get started with talking a little bit about your life before you came to UWGB. So what you were doing professionally, what a regular day looked for you back then.
So I was a press operator at Orion Labels. The day was get up at 4 to get ready for work. Work starts at 5. You would set up your job. We made labels. The most notable, if you walk into a Quick Trip, any of the labels there, we make all of them. But setting up, and then the day was a 10-hour day of running whatever tickets, jobs that were given to us. And it was literally that every day. You would have different colors, but pretty much the same thing over and over.
And what made you want to change what you were doing?
So kind of got to go back a little bit. I was, at 35, I had a stroke. And hearing from the doctor that they didn't think I was going to come off the table kind of was shake your life up. You start thinking about what's really important. And I really started to think, when I'm at the job and it's just no joy, the pay was good, so really had a trapped feeling and really started to think about that. But what kind of kicked it off was when I was diagnosed with kidney failure. That kind of put an inevitable end at some point. I knew I was going to be done at this job because I just wouldn't be able to physically do it anymore.
All right, so you knew that eventually you'd have to give it up, so you figured sooner rather than later?
So I actually managed to make it another year, kind of slowly started decreasing my work hours, and then, it got to the point, and I just said, my wife is in a good position. We have money saved up. Right now is a great time to retire
and start a whole new career.
Yep. I retired in the summer, and I didn't actually start college until the following semester. I took that time to get used to the new situation of life. I wanted to make sure that all my ducks were in a row before I jumped into a whole new career.
Yeah, so tell me about that sort of pause before you started college. Were there any trepidations, any nervousness? What did you think it was going to be like?
So to be honest, I was terrified. After a stroke, I had made a physical recovery, but having all that trauma to my brain, I didn't know, did this affect my ability to learn? Being 38 years old, how well could I actually learn? And then just the thinking about my past experience and watching my grades when I was 18, 19, 20 continually got worse. So then I was questioning, is college even something that I can do? But the big thing for me was I absolutely knew I did not want to work in a factory anymore. So if that wasn't what I could do, I had to push forward.
So when you came to UWGB, you didn't know you wanted to do psychology, or you thought you might?
So I actually, when I graduated high school, I went to a private school in Indiana and did fairly well there. I had, the connection with friends. I felt like that was home, but the price tag was astronomical. And I grew up in the Green Bay area, so I transferred back to UWGB when I was 19. And I think I switched my major 3 or 4 times, all businessy type stuff. And it was actually the last semester that I attended here when I was 20 that I kind of discovered psychology. Then I dropped out. So at the factory, I kind of was like the resident therapist. Everybody would come to me with their family problems, relational problems, and I would listen, and they just open up. And so that kind of reaffirmed in my head as other people see me in this role. So when I came back at 38, I knew psychology is what I want. In my head, I thought being a therapist is perfect for me.
Right. So you'd sort of witnessed that that's what you enjoyed doing. You enjoyed talking to people. You had the temperament and the patience for talking to people. And so you were already thinking this going back to school is a stepping stone to a future career for me.
Yep. The coming back, and it was kind of twofold. One, you have to have a degree to go, and honestly, you need a master's degree to really be doing what I want to do. And then there was a part of me too, and it's part of the reason I chose GB over any other school, is I felt I failed the first time, and in my head it was like I have to come back and prove that no, I failed because I didn't put forth the effort, and that if I put forth the effort, I can succeed. And GB was like, that's okay. I have to come back and show UWGB that I can do it.
And certainly you did, having just graduated in December. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell me about how that sort of transformation happened. You said you were terrified before you came in. You had something to prove. What sort of strategies, in those first few semesters did you gain? What led to you feeling like, okay, now I got it. I can do this.
So there is, there's 5 professors. They're my 5 that I pretty much credit all of my success this time around to.
I think, of course, you should credit yourself as well a little bit, Drew.
The Professor Pankratz, he's a writing, gen ed writer professor, and he helped me with confidence. And that very first semester, being able to bring my paper to him and the praise he gave you along with the critiquing. By the time I finished that class, I felt like I belonged here. And that is probably the biggest difference between this time and the first time, is actually going and talking to my professors. I don't quite get what the fear as a 19, 20-year-old to go talk to the professor, but being 38, one, I'm the same age as the majority of my professors, so it was more natural to go. But the biggest benefit was you get that personalized input. And Professor Pankratz was awesome with this, and being able to take that coming out of it. He actually asked if he could use 3 of my last papers as teaching tools for other classes. And just, I mean, how do you not have confidence coming out of that? First semester back, and they're using my papers. So I was like ready to conquer everything. I was on cloud 9.
Oh, that's such a wonderful story. And I love how you're saying that, you got this positive feedback, this praise, but also the criticism as well and how to improve. And so it wasn't just that they were saying you're great and perfect, but that you're great and here's how we can be even better.
Yeah. And I don't know how you would get better if you aren't open to the criticism, because none of us are coming into college knowing it all. If it is, we wouldn't come to college. So especially for me, I'm a perfectionist, and being able to take what he was saying and be like, okay, if I do these 2 things, now I'm going to have the perfect paper. And to then go ahead and I implement that in the next paper because we'll learn from that. And now he's got 2 or 3 other things that if I want to take that next step, this is what I can do. So for me, that never settling and being like, okay, here, this is, I'm good enough. To me, that drive of, no, I can always be a little better.
I know this about you because we've met more than once, and I know that you always are striving for that perfection. And sometimes even I have to say, hey, so the 90% is good enough on your paper, but it is such a wonderful internal drive you have to always want to improve and always want to learn. I want to talk a little bit, if we shift gears, to sort of how you balance that desire to do really well in school with all the other obligations that come with life. I know you're a father of 3, and obviously that must take up a lot of your time, and you have to deal with lots of medical appointments as well. So how did you balance your time through your time here at UWGB?
Very carefully. So it was difficult in the beginning. My drive and passion to prove to myself that I could do this was a little bit more than what it probably should have been. I stuck almost all of my free time went into my homework and making sure that I was on time with the stuff, and that in most cases ahead of time. Because with the medical side of things, it's kind of like a clock. And at some point that clock's going to go off and I end up in the hospital. And I was always worried, well, if I'm in the hospital, I can't go to class, I can't turn stuff in. So I would push to go ahead. And my kids suffered because I was cutting out of time that I should have spent with them. There was no fun time for myself, no fun time with the family. My wife was awesome. She never griped about the lack of time spent with her. She was very understanding. But as the semesters went on, and as I learned more about psychology and how our brains work, and it became clear that there had to be a balance. And I actually I would come to school early so that when I was at school, that's when school happened. That way, when I went home in the afternoon, I could spend that time with my kids, and then with my wife. And then after all that, if there was still needing to do homework, I would do homework. And then I set aside Sundays. I did not do any school whatsoever on Sundays. Uh, um, even if there was homework to be done, I had gotten to the point that it's like, no, I need a day a week where I'm not pushing myself. I'm not stressing over. And that was very helpful. And I think that that's part of what success is, or to achieve success, is having the realization that, yes, this is your goal, this is what you want, but there's a time for self-maintenance. So I think that coming to that realization was key.
And preventing, hopefully, burnout, and allows you to go through the 4 years and finish.
Yep. And it really is, because my last semester before graduation, it was one, I wasn't planning on graduating early. Dr. Cowell actually convinced me that I had the ability to do it. So I had, if it wasn't for that, I was in full experience of burnout, even with taking the time, just the workload, the dialysis, the running to kids' events, and I was all upper level coursework, and it was the first time in this time being back where I legitimately was sitting there and calculating in my head, if I just don't do anything, I'll still pass this class with a B. And that's never been something that I've thought about. So, even when you take these steps, realizing that burnout is still possible. And I think that for students coming in, having that realization that even if you're doing everything right, it still can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to, well, not nice for you, but probably nice for our listeners to know that there's not just this linear path to success where, okay, you'll get it figured out in the first few semesters and then you'll be sailing, that life can happen, that there can be ups and downs. You found your last semester particularly trying. And I think that it's good for people to know that you can still succeed with those ups and downs. Some semesters are going to be harder than others.
Yeah, I took a college tour, several, with my oldest son, and at one of the meetings, one of their professors said something that kind of stuck with me, and he had said that to be successful in college, you either have to be running towards something or running from something. And when he said it, I kind of just chuckled. I was like, oh, that's a nice little statement. And it really didn't mean anything until that last semester. And realizing, I'd never wanted to go back to a factory. So as I had said earlier, that kind of pushes you. If I can't go back, there's only going forward. So I was running from something. I was running from the factory, and then I really enjoy communication. I love talking. I love listening, and so I had both, and I think that it had to be right around week 10 or 11. I remember sitting at my desk at home and writing out pros and cons. Why should I keep pushing? And ultimately, the running towards something, running from something, kept popping up on that piece of paper. So the path to success, I don't I don't think you would learn as much if it was a nice, easy, flat, straight highway path to getting to the end. That do I regret wasting the money, the time, the energy, the first 3 years of school? I do. But I guarantee you I wouldn't have the drive and wisdom that I did this time around if I hadn't experienced that. So, no, it wasn't a graduate high school 4 years and get my degree. Yeah, I took a huge detour in the middle, but ultimately, this was my path, and I ended up graduating and achieving that success.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you're still here and part of our community, because you're actually working at the moment as a tutor at the Learning Center. And so I want to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about how your experience as a student have informed the way that you now sort of are giving back to current students.
Yeah, the journey to become a tutor. I'll backtrack a little here, and in my head, each semester that I ended, I wanted to achieve more and be better. So at the end of my first semester, my stats professor, Dr. Steiner, asked me to be a TA. Her class is all online, so I held sessions online, and for me, this is a great way to further my communication skills, because now I'm going to deal with people, and people are all different. And two, it would be a way for me to give back. I love statistics, so it's a rare breed.
Yeah, you're in the minority, I think, there.
So you have this terrified look on these students' faces, like, oh, I have to do statistics. And then Dr. Steiner would start a lecture, and she just pours it on right from the get-go, I think to shake you up, to say, hey, this is serious. Because then she slows down, and she does a really good job of teaching it. But I seen these students, and they would talk to me, and how do I do this? And the joy I got from seeing it click with a student, it's almost addicting. It's just a rush, and it's not so much that it was like a prideful moment of, oh, look at this, I can help somebody. It was just that, hey, this student is now understanding this, and they're not going to have to struggle. So that's what kind of hooked me on the helping. I'm very much an in-person. As I said, I love communication. So at the end of my second semester is when you asked if I would want to be an embedded tutor. And it was like a no-brainer. I get to keep tutoring, and now it's in person, and I get to physically interact with students. And part of that is selfish, because actually seeing, not just hearing about how you helped them, physically seeing that aha moment was big. And I think that for me, if I can help a student to be less stressful, to achieve success in the manner that they are defining it, is the reason that I stuck with tutoring to, I think this is 3 semesters later. So not only my own joy, but helping any way that I can other people make it further on their own success journey.
You're making me start tearing up over here. It's just so nice to hear you talk about sort of this passion for seeing it click, because it's reminding me of how much I enjoy seeing that moment in a classroom where suddenly people's eyes will light up, and there's that moment. It's a beautiful moment. And I wonder, because I want to talk now about your future goals. So now you've graduated, you've got your degree, and I know you're thinking of graduate school because you want to be a therapist or a counselor, and that's sort of a requirement. But I wonder, do you think there's going to be that flicker maybe in the therapeutic session where something finally clicks? Do you think you'll have the same thing?
Um, so I would hope so. Uh, it's kind of similar. This is tutoring is schoolwork, and in therapy, it's the same thing. It's not their journey for a degree, but it's their life's journey. And one of the 5 professors that really helped me was Dr. Gretton. He's a therapist himself, and he never talked about it as being the therapist and having a client. He always referred to it as he's just a guide, and that in therapy, it's not our job to tell you what you should do, even though we very well may know the right answer and the solution to whatever it is you're talking about, but that's not our job. That it's our job to guide you to the realization of an answer that you're looking for. And to me, I think that that's kind of like that aha moment, that's where that would pop in, of them realizing, oh, hey, this is what I need to do to achieve what I want. And I would assume that would be very similar to realizing, oh, this is how I write this in a research paper.
Yeah, I'm remembering when you've told me, and you tell our students that I'm not going to give you the answers, but I'll guide you to them. And so I'm feeling the similar sort of language here.
Yep, and it's and I think we learn more by discovering it ourselves. Yeah, it is easy. I mean, I myself would like to just be like, hey, can I have the answer? But the journey to getting to that answer, I think, really makes it concrete in what it is that you're attempting. You learn from that. You learn from your mistakes. And through that, I think it just makes the end more of a solid foundation, and you have more of a pride in, I achieved this. No one gave this to me. I achieved it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm so glad that you can have that pride in yourself too. And I know you credit a lot of your professors with your success, but you absolutely should have that pride that you achieved your degree and did so well and so successful in it. So, quick sort of, if you could give, let's say, 2 pieces of advice to somebody who's thinking about coming back to school. Maybe they went before for a little bit, maybe they dropped out, maybe they've never been. What would your sort of top pieces of advice be?
If you're, on the fence of coming back, the first piece, and it's simple, it's just find a way to do it. You get so much more than just an education from coming to college. And it's something that I didn't appreciate the first time around when I came. but it's just your worldview gets expanded because it's not just your everyday group of people. Especially as we get older, we kind of hang out with the same people, the same type of people, everybody that's like us. And you come to college and everybody is not like you. And that different opinion and views is awesome. I mean, you can learn so much from that. And so the first thing is just do it. Know that it's going to be difficult, especially coming in as a non-traditional student. We just have more responsibilities. When you come to school right out of high school, it's kind of like this in-between period. You're an adult. You got to make adult decisions, but you don't have the full adult responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Now, some students do have that. I don't want to generalize and diminish what some high school students have to do to come to school. But coming non-traditionally, you're working, you have kids. But I still would say do it. It's just I can't think of the word, but the reward of coming is, I think, far outweighs the negative side that would come with it. And the second piece of advice is, it's when you come, you're thinking about coming, you got to believe in yourself. If I would have been doubting myself the whole time, I don't know if I would have graduated. But having that belief that I can come here, I can be successful, whatever your version of success looks like, and know that there are resources that are all around you to help you to achieve the success. So having just believing that you can actually, I can do this, I think is probably the second piece I would give people thinking about it.
I love it. Just do it and believe in yourself. I feel like both of those need to be printed as logos on something for sure. Drew's advice. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Drew. I hope to have you back when you're, a qualified therapist and you can come in and tell me about that next part of your journey. But thank you so much for sharing it so far.
Thank you.
Psychology and Stuff is brought to you by Good Cause Productions at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. The executive producer is Ryan Martin, the production manager is Rachel Sankey, and our creative director is Jenny Young. The media engineer for this episode is Kennedy Punky, supported by Justin Kavli. Special thanks to my guest today, Drew Grove. If you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. I'm your host, Allison Jane Martingano. Keep being amazing.